Oh, I'm sorry. I'm cut right in front of you, sir. I'm going to slide by you. Thank you.
Five seconds.
So we'll start it.
Worked a lot with Chad. Were you guys fortunate enough to have my grandfather also? Because it's huge.
I think I might have seen him on a couple of jobs. Not just like probably like your dad is now.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. All right, I think we can get.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to get started. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dwayne Martin. I'm the West Hartford Town Engineer. With me tonight is Greg Summer. Julie Vieira was to join us. Unfortunately, she had some sick children, so she didn't come into work today. Seems like a lot of kids are sick getting back into the school year. She was a co-designer with Greg on this project. So we're here to talk about the Park Road at I-84 Interchange Improvement Project. There is a few housekeeping things to go over. I think most of you saw the sign-in sheets. If you weren't able to sign in, please do so on your way out. You want to make sure you validate your parking, free parking. And there was also a handout, which we ran out of copies. We're happy to have the big audience. We have a couple more up here. We can make more if need be, or we can email them to you if you prefer that. So just let us know. So we have a quick PowerPoint presentation. We like to go through it. It's probably going to be somewhere in the ballpark of 15 minutes. We'd like to refrain from questions until the end, if that's okay with you guys. We also have a full plan set. If there's any engineers in the audience, I think there's a few in the back there that might want to flip through, look at the cross sections or details. So it's up here in the front. We also have a board hanging up there, which I can't see. You guys maybe can if you're close enough. Has some good information on it, very similar to the handout. On the front here on the first screen, you can also see on the bottom there, we do have a project website. Town of West Hartford, of course, has a web page. You can access the project website from the engineering division's web page on the town's website. We plan on updating that as the project goes along. So there's a couple tabs on there, which we may be able to show you the web page towards the end of the presentation. That may not have very good information yet, but as the project goes along, we're going to add photos and some detailed information, so it'll be nice to check in. There's also a camera that we have out there now, which is operating, so you can view that from home and just see what's going on in the interchange area. Okay, so we have a brief agenda here tonight. We're just going to go over the project quickly. We've had meetings, as you can see there, we've had 3 public information meetings, so this being our 4th public meeting. So we're not intending to go through the design of the project. We've pretty much accomplished that with the first 3 meetings. The idea here is basically to go over the fact that we have a project, fairly large-sized project, that's about to kick off. So it'll be impactful to those who live near the project, so we just want to manage some expectations, give you some general idea as to what to expect. Obviously, there'll be some traffic issues, but that's one of the reasons we're doing the project, is to make traffic flow much better and safer through the interchange area. So also you can see there we plan on talking about the project cost and how the town is paying for some of that and how others are covering the costs. As I mentioned, and you're very well aware, you can see from the photos on the screen from time to time, the interchange area is pretty heavily congested. There's a good amount of crashes, somewhat because of that congestion. And so we're trying to address the problems that we have there. So it's a very important project for us. I know personally I tend to avoid the interchange area if I have a choice, which a lot of people do, which is unfortunate. It's the gateway, or one of the gateways to West Hartford, so we don't want people to shy away from that. And we certainly want to improve the safety of it. So it's going to be a great project once it's completed. And as I said, at the end, we'll open it up for questions and comments. So just a little bit of background regarding the project, which we've gone through in the other meetings and you may be well aware, but in case you're not, obviously it is a heavily congested area. As I mentioned, it's the busiest interchange that we have in West Hartford, averaging 30,000 vehicles per day. The way that the interchange was designed was not to handle this amount of traffic. There's some closely spaced intersections, lack of left turn lanes, so there's a lot of congestion and traffic that spills into intersections and it'll block the on-ramp, the off-ramp, and the Trout Brook Drive intersection and some of the other smaller intersections nearby. So we've gone through the analysis, and a lot of those issues should go away when everything is completed. Traffic signals on the bottom of the sheet. So there's a few traffic signals in the interchange area. There's one at Raymond, one at the off-ramp, and one at Trout Brook. and Park Road. Right now, there's a mixture of who is responsible for maintaining and how those operate between the state DOT and the town. In the past, we tried to get those to work better in concert with one another as far as their coordination goes to get traffic to flow more freely through the interchange, but that was unsuccessful, and it's difficult to have different types of controllers operating signals if they're different manufacturers and programmed differently. So when the project's all said and done, there'll be changes to the traffic signals and they'll be operated by the town. All of them will be fully coordinated with one another, so traffic should flow much more freely. So this is a blow-up of the interchange area. As you can see, north is to the right. You can see, actually I have a pointer. So there's Park Road there. This is the interchange area, exit 43. You can see right now, here's the existing off-ramp. And the idea is to relocate the off-ramp next to the existing on-ramp. There's improvements in the interchange area that I'm going to go through real quick. It's incorporated in the project. So improve the off-ramp geometry, reduce the vertical curve on the off-ramp, which will improve the sight distance. So if you drive the off-ramp, you'll note that the existing off-ramp, you'll note that you'll actually go up and then down again. Some people know, some people don't. That this interchange was actually intended to, or the exit was actually intended to go beyond Park Road. There was going to be several exits to the north of Park Road, believe it or not. So the idea was the main line of the off-ramp was to go up and over Park Road. And so you have this hill where you go up on the off-ramp and then back down and touch down to Park Road. Well, the issue there is it blocks your sight line. You can't see the cars that are stopped at the end of the off-ramp. So it creates an unsafe situation. So the new off-ramp, when it's constructed, will be designed differently to avoid that, have a much better, flatter, smoother design coming down to Park Road, so you'll have better sight visibility. As I mentioned, the off-ramp will be relocated next to the existing on-ramp. It's approximately 200-foot shift to the west. Benefit of that is it creates more storage space on Park Road for the on-ramp traffic and for the intersection of Park and Trout Brook. Right now, the off-ramp has 3 lanes. It has a single left turn lane and a double right turn lane. The new off-ramp will have 2 left turn lanes and 2 right turn lanes. So that'll help allow more traffic to stage on the off-ramp, and it'll process more cars with each traffic signal cycle. If you're on Park Road and you want to get onto the I-84 on-ramp, right now there is no dedicated left turn lane, so that'll be changed as part of the project. We're incorporating 2 left turn lanes there. So that'll also allow more space for traffic to store on Park Road so you're not blocking intersections. Both the on and the off ramp, when we're done, will be signalized. So if you're trying to get on the highway right now, you're on Park Road, you're trying to turn left to get onto the on ramp. You don't, not only do not have a left turn lane, but there is no traffic signal to assist you and allow you to get on there while traffic is stopped. You have to wait for a gap. Sometimes it's blocked, as I mentioned before. We did add some paint there. Do not block the intersection, which helps, but still from time to time it gets blocked. So having the signal will help allow people to get more freely onto the on ramp. And as I mentioned, the separation of the new on and off ramp configuration will pull that traffic further away from Trout Brook Drive, so it'll allow you to store more traffic on Park Road in between the 2 intersections, the off ramp and on ramp intersection and the Park and Trout Brook Drive intersection. Now we're adding left turn lanes where we can. So we have left turn lanes proposed for Overbrook Road, for Raymond Road, those are kind of back to back. And then on Trout Brook Drive, as you approach Park Road, there'll be left turn lanes added to that intersection. Quick, before I turn it over to Greg to continue the presentation, I just want to mention at the end of the presentation, the slideshow, we'll open up to questions, but we do have blow-ups on the screen that we can show you for each individual intersection if you're interested in looking at that.
Thanks, Dwayne. So I just want to briefly talk about project schedule. I know a lot of you are probably interested in that. Right now, the plan is to award the project. Tomorrow, actually, we have a pre-construction meeting. We'll be meeting with the low bidder on the project. It was Paramount Construction. They're out of Newington. We'll also be meeting with Weston and Sampson, who the town is contracted with to do construction inspection. This project, due to the size of it, is a little beyond the scope that we can handle in-house as far as the inspection goes. So we brought in an outside contractor to handle that component. So both parties are really eager to be working on the project. We're excited to have them and look forward to kicking off the project tomorrow at the pre-con meeting. Assuming everything goes well, that'll put us into construction this season, hopefully in early October. Will be the first real movement you'll see out there. Initially, it'll be the contractor getting some equipment staged. They're going to be doing some clearing and grill bag activities, tree removal. That's probably going to be the biggest shock to a lot of people right off the bat. Is going to be clearing the trees between the two existing on-ramps. But bear with us. I know we have some good plans in the end of things you'll be very happy with as far as landscaping. We work closely with the landscape architect from the DOT. We have about 280 trees that are going to be replanted as part of the project. So we'll put it back, we promise. Just hang in there and bear with us. So with that, most of the construction you see this season will be contained within the existing on and off ramps. Nothing really major on Park Road itself. So as far as traffic impacts go this year, should be fairly minimal. The contractor will be able to work without really impacting the highway ramps either. That should take them through the end of this season. We'll have a winter shutdown period. Contractor may choose to work if it's weather is still favorable and they can find activities that they can do without being impacting the overall quality of the product. They'll come back in the spring. That would be spring of 18, beginning work on the on-ramp, getting modifications done. There's a retaining wall, some things that need to happen. And then most likely the shift from the existing off-ramp to the new off-ramp that they're constructing, that'll probably happen late spring, early summer, most likely. So that'll be another big change that everybody will see when we transition traffic over. Following that, probably summer, fall next year is when they'll really start working on Park Road and the reconstruction activities there. That's really when the fun's going to begin. A lot of traffic impacts there. So we'll certainly do our best to notify everyone, make sure everybody's well aware of what's about to happen. But that'll probably be the one to look out for. And we'll do our best to help everybody navigate through and work through those issues. One more winter shutdown, and then they'll bring them back, the contractor, in the spring of 19 to do some final landscaping, touch-up work, things like that. And summer of 19 is our anticipated completion of construction. So, as far as project cost, total project $6.8 million for construction. It's a grant-funded project, which is great for the town. It means that the cost is shared. So the federal government's picking up the major component portion of it, and then the state and town both have shares for the project. The town's cost is about $975,000. So. As far as traffic delays, as I mentioned, this year should be fairly light. The contractor is required to maintain a lane in each direction at all times throughout construction. So you're still going to be able to get through the intersection. The ramps won't be closed, with a few minor exceptions, maybe when we're doing the transition from the old off-ramp to the new one. But aside from that, the roads will remain open to traffic. Obviously, if you're reducing Park Road to a lane in each direction, it's going to cause significant backups and delays. So to the extent it's possible, we're encouraging everybody to use alternate means, avoid that area if at all possible. There's obviously other interchanges that you can pick off of 84 that will get you where you want to go, and we're fortunate to have a grid system. So to the extent you can, especially next summer when we get into the Park Road construction, that's really the time you want to try and avoid the area if at all possible. Real quick, just on working hours, the contractor is restricted. They won't be able to work during the morning or evening commuting periods. So obviously that's a positive. So most of their work will probably be centered between like 8:30 to 4, somewhere in there. But they won't be allowed to have any lane closures or anything like that would influence the traffic movements between those commuting periods. Night work is something that the town tries to avoid, if at all possible. We do have noise ordinances in place. Certainly, restrict that activity. On this project, we recognize that there's times when it will be required, both from the safety of the traveling public as well as the safety of our construction workers that'll be out there. So, you may see a few instances when it's necessary for us to work at night. So we do ask for your patience, and we'll try and accelerate that as quickly and safely as we can. But recognize that we don't take that lightly. We don't want to do night work if we don't have to. So we do try and avoid that. This next slide just shows you some volumes and some other options you can take. As we mentioned, 30,000 vehicles per day on the Park Road exit. So anything we can do to reduce that number would certainly help out the contractor, help out you guys. Obviously, it'd be less frustration if you have to drive through there, and overall help to accelerate the schedule for the project. So as Dwayne mentioned, we do have a webcam that will be posted on the town's website for the Park Road project. If you want to check out what's going on, that's a great place to do it. You don't even have to leave your house and bother driving through the interchange. So that would be a good way to keep up on what's going on up there. This slide just shows a quick rendering of what the new gateway wall will look like. Obviously, the existing wall that's out there, as I mentioned, some of the landscaping and final touches, we're going to need to shift that, because obviously it's not going to make a lot of sense if the on-ramp changes locations. You're going to be looking at a wall that's 200 feet out of the way. So we're going to clean it up a little bit, make it more of a seat wall, and hopefully maybe a gathering space a little bit. This was something, again, that the landscape architect came up with, and we worked with them to try and come up with something that we think would be a nice kind of gateway entrance treatment to the town. So that's something that'll probably come in, again, towards the later stages of the project, but really help to bring that greenery back to this area, along with the tree planting and other landscaping that we have planned. So light at the end of the tunnel. And then just posted the project website. This should be on your handouts. I'll go through it just quickly, just to kind of show you what we have out there. Homepage is going to have any kind of construction news, if there's traffic alerts, any kind of changes to the detour plans, anything like that we have going on. You can check in right there. Project overview is just kind of a summary of what the project is. It has the diagram that is included on your handout, so you can get a sense of where we are and what we're looking to do out there. Construction schedule hasn't been updated yet. We hope to get that information on there soon, following tomorrow's pre-construction meeting, but kind of a general overview of what we have planned, and that'll be continued to be updated throughout the project as we get a better sense, a 2-week outlook, especially if there's major activities happening that will impact the community. We'll certainly get those posted so everybody's aware of what's going on. Public outreach. This is where we'll have this meeting is being recorded by West Hartford Community Television, so we'll put a link to the YouTube clip so you can rewatch the presentation in case you have any questions, share it with your neighbors if they weren't able to be here tonight. There's also a list of articles that were in past publications, West Hartford Press, The Current, whatnot. Those are all archived in that section as well. Construction photos, another section. We'll periodically update just to give you guys an update, and maybe some things that from an engineering standpoint we think it's cool. Hopefully you guys will take a little interest in it as well, seeing things that you might not be able to otherwise if you're just driving by. So should be some interesting stuff coming there. As I mentioned, the live webcam is a great way to just get a still shot, kind of idea of what's going on, what the major changes have been in the construction. And then lastly, just an FAQ. Check here if there's a question you have. Maybe somebody else had it as well. You might be able to find the answer right off the bat. If not, there's a contact us. There's a project email address that goes to 3 or 4 different people in the project team. We'll get you the information you need. So those are just some options for you. A lot of good information. It'll continue to evolve as the project does. So I certainly encourage you to visit the website and take a look at that. And any feedback, questions, comments you have, feel free to share those. There's the website again, westhartfordct.gov. That's the town's website, and then just /parkrd will get you right to the project-specific website. Project team email is there as well, And then we also have a Twitter hashtag. If anybody tweets, I don't tweet, but we're going to get some information up there, and you'll learn all about it. So so there's some good contact info for you, and that's on your handout as well, so you don't have to scribble it down. So with that, I don't know if anybody has, I know we kind of went through it pretty quickly, but if anybody has any questions, we'd certainly love to hear them and try and get the answers you need. So, yes, go ahead. It's a good question. So the question was how we're going to, if I'm hearing this right, the alerting traffic on 84 that there's a construction project. So what we've done in the plan set, the contractor is required to put signage up on the main line I-84 in advance of exit 41 Main Street and in advance of exit 44 Prospect Avenue. I think it's something to the effect of exit 43, construction, expect delays or use alternate routes. So that will be posted on 84 itself. So hopefully we'll be able to discourage a few motorists from taking that exit and try and reduce that volume a little bit. So we do have plans to address that issue. Was that answer your question, or? Are you talking about on the merge on the off ramp? So you're exiting. Yeah. So your question is about the weave. Yeah. Yeah. We understand that, and that was a challenge because we really, ultimately the two exits want to be reversed, right? Because everybody coming off the one direction wants to go right, the other people want to go left. What we've done to try and accomplish a solution for that is, as Dwayne mentioned, you have that vertical curve, which reduces your time that you have to see the traffic that might be backed up from the traffic signal. So by regrading that, you'll have increased visibility. What we've also done is we've added a left turn lane coming off the exit. So what that'll do is instead of your queue backing up, let's say it's 400 feet worth of vehicles that are queued there. Well, now you're going to have that in 2 lanes. So those 400, it would be reduced by half. So you'd have an extra 200 feet, and I'm just throwing out round numbers, but you would have additional time before you would hit the back of that stopped vehicles, that queue that would back up. So it would be split between the additional left turn lane. I don't know if that totally makes sense. It was kind of a unique issue. It was one that, within the scope of the project, we couldn't really obviously relocate the 2 exit ramps, from the east and the westbound, where they merge. But we did the best we can within the scope of the project to try and correct that issue. So through the addition of the left turn lane and then also changing the geometry of the ramp, hopefully that'll improve the visibility, give you a little more distance to complete that weave. You're talking about right in this area here? Yeah, you'd have 2 lanes there. So that's basically from this point here is where the 2 ramps would converge. You'd be able to merge through this whole area, and then that's where you would split into the 4 lanes. So the 2 that go left and 2 that go right.
That's the choke point.
Right, and right now, when you come off, you're fighting to get all the way over to the left. And then coming the other way, you're fighting to get over to the right.
And that's not changing.
The overall maneuver is not changing, but as I mentioned, the geometry is changing, and then this extra left turn lane is going to help as well, because now, right now you might have the queue that would back up. Maybe, this is the overhead sign. A lot of times it backs up past there. So you can see there's not a lot of distance between where the two ramps would merge to get to the back of that queue. That's a very short distance. So now we are improving that quite a bit from this point to the back of these stack lines here. So I think the dual lefts and the existing two right turn lanes will help to distribute that. Hopefully your queues won't extend back quite as far.
I don't think it's.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got to look.
Right.
Moving.
There's
There's not enough room for people to move.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those, it's an indirect benefit. I think a lot of the side swipe accidents that we might have occurring are because people feel, it's a short distance that they have to make that maneuver, and they're kind of rushing or maybe making those changes abruptly because they got to take the first opportunity they get. So the thought is with the longer distance, you'll have a little more time. The speeds might not change, but you'll have better visibility to see the traffic to your left or to your right and safely make that maneuver. Gentleman in the yellow.
During the natural alternative route,
That's something we've talked about internally and are prepared to deal with. The traffic signals along that corridor, particularly from South Main to Trout Brook, are all town-owned signals. So we can certainly adjust timings, do things like that that would help to accommodate any additional volume we might see on Boulevard, depending on the activities at Park Road. So, yes, go ahead.
I brought this up.
That's going to be included as part of this project. It will be what we call an exclusive PED phase. So you'll have the full pedestrian push buttons. There'll be audible pedestrian system. So they'll have the tone, and it'll, for blind and hearing impaired, it will accommodate those features. And then you would basically have exclusive pedestrians would have exclusive time to cross that intersection without traffic. Yeah. So you're trying to make this maneuver, so Park Road, down here onto Raymond. Raymond Road is here. I'd have to go back and look at the plans. I know we added left turn lane. I'm not sure if we added the left turn arrow, but I'll look at it to see. I can go through that with you after the meeting if you'd like, and we can take a look. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, the existing overhead sign structure, it'll be a new sign structure will be located here, and it'll still have basically the two signs for Trout Brook will be very similar to the existing signs, and then you'll add an additional one for the Park Road. So there'll be a sign over each lane. It'll be Park Road West, over those those last two lanes. So everybody and the thought, and maybe that'll help out with the weave as well, to kind of get people in the right position ahead of time. So yeah, that will be there. We also have some wayfinding signs to kind of direct people to the center, and we're still trying to. I know there's some concerns with the folks on Raymond Road, trying to discourage that as the access point. So still, even if you get off and make that left, there's still wayfinding signs that directs you down to South Main Street, and then the same thing if you get off and make a right, directs you down Trout Brook to get into Blueback. So. Yes. I mean, my gut tells me that it would be improved. Again, you're not required to move over. You have the two lanes, so you're only basically moving one lane. Nothing says you have to go all the way over to the westernmost lane to make that left. So it's still just a one lane maneuver. And again, if depending on where you're going on Trout Brook, it may, yes. So the hours for working on Park Road or on Trout Brook Drive would be generally between 8:30 to 4 would be the time that the contractor is allowed to work. The ramps, it's a little more restrictive. It's from 9 to 3. So we've kind of tried to relax those hours a little bit on the town side, just to kind of help accelerate the project. If we see it's an issue for traffic, we'll certainly ratchet those back and work with the contractor to make sure that we're not making any more of an inconvenience than we absolutely have to. You're saying people coming southbound on say Trout Brook is here, and they're making that right, and yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And a lot of things I think will help is there's left turn lane here that we're creating. Certainly the signal timings will definitely help. One thing we did was right now it runs something like it's almost 3 minutes long. So I think people recognize that, gee, if I don't make this green light, I'm stuck here for 2.5 minutes. I may as well put the car in park. We're gonna take those signal times down quite a bit. So I think there'll be a lot less frustration. People will realize that, gee, if I miss this, maybe it's only a minute that I have to wait, or a minute and 20 seconds, something a little more manageable. So I think that'll kind of help to ratchet down that aggressive driving behaviors. It's always a tough one, right turn on red. We do have signage included, things like that, but yeah, short of putting a police officer out there 24/7, it's a difficult one to try and control. So, sure.
One of the things that will
Mm-hmm.
there
one turn lane from Trout Brook onto Park, but as you mentioned, yes, we'll have dual lefts to get onto the highway. So that'll help to, and obviously the signals will be coordinated. So you make that right turn, and that shouldn't back up as much through the intersection. So that should help to kind of improve the flow through that area. So thank you for that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry. So you're asking what the distance is from this point over to between the two? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, the median. So this is going to be a retaining wall. There's going to be a little bit of a grade separation between the existing on-ramp and the off-ramp. So it's going to be about a 12-foot wide area. So you'll have a concrete prefab retaining wall on the one side, and then we're going to landscape it with. We're looking for something that was a little kind of low maintenance, so we came up with like a river rock mulch with kind of good sized stones, and then we'll have some groupings of some shrubs and things on the top in some clusters. So they're trying to break up that look with a little bit of greenery, but understanding that we don't want to create a maintenance issue either. One thing we've done to address that is we've pulled the stop bar. You can see it's quite a ways through the intersection because of that doesn't really affect the right turn lane at all. So we moved this stop bar up quite a bit, hopefully with the intent of making it pretty obvious that you're intended to go on this side of the median, not turn here. We also have a number of wrong-way signage, one-way signs. You'll have pavement arrows. And then, gosh, if you really make it too far, there's wrong-way arrows that'll be further up the ramp. So this is a pretty typical kind of configuration. DOT has ramp designs in other locations that are similar to this. We followed their guidance as far as how to configure it, signage, things like that to try and address those issues. So we recognize that may be a concern, but we've done as much as we can to try and prevent that. In the back? Yep, so as far as pedestrians and cyclists, we did accommodate as best we could. We tried to increase the size of the sidewalk. So you have this existing connection. The pedestrian bridge over Trout Brook is here. This all becomes an 8-foot wide sidewalk, so nice wide path with the intent that it would be shared by both cyclists and pedestrians. We looked at trying to accommodate cyclists on the road. And then recognize that there's not a lot of real estate to do that. It's also not the safest area to try and introduce a bike lane and things like that. We did work closely with the pedestrian bicycle committee to try and address that, and they liked the 8-foot sidewalk that we had proposed. And then it does have a nice connection that goes all the way down to Park at Raymond, and we actually carried that 8-foot walk down here along the south side to Overbrook as well. So there's that connection across, and then recognizing that a lot of people might use Overbrook to get down. At Trout Brook, same thing at Raymond Road. There's going to be an exclusive pedestrian phase that will be incorporated here. So you'll have push buttons with the signals on all 4 corners. This is the existing Trout Brook Trail. The next phase would be continuing it down Trout Brook this direction. So this kind of tees that up, putting in the pedestrian, signal equipment, and then again tying into that nice pedestrian bridge and the 8-foot wide sidewalk. Should really link those trails. Right. We've looked at it, and I apologize. I don't recall if it's where that stood in this plan set. I can certainly take a look after the meeting and let you know. Again, it's difficult to enforce, but I think a lot of it will have to do with the signal timing. We're really the thought is by shortening those cycle lengths, kind of helping to correct some of that poor aggressive driving behaviors that you see through there. So maybe people won't be as in a hurry to make that right on red if they know the signal is not going to be quite as long. So this is actually for a truck turning radius. So we recognize that that's a pretty good size. Here or this one here, same deal. In order to make that turn, we need to make sure a tractor trailer can get around there. What we've done to try and kind of soften that and make it a little less inviting for a car is we're going to try a stamped asphalt treatment. So it would actually be a different colored asphalt. It'd be stamped with like a brick look to it. So it'll probably make a little more noise if a car drives over it. Nothing necessarily wrong with driving over it, but you're trying to encourage them to kind of swing out and make a little tighter maneuver. So that's the best we could do there. We incorporated that in this corner as well. It's kind of the same idea, just to try and keep the cars in a proper lane. So, the back.
Yes, the area where
Bear with me 1 second. Thank you. So this would be the where the current off-ramp is. So the plan is to, basically this would be more the formal landscaped area, the part that everybody will see when they come off the highway. It'll be kind of mounded up and create some nice focal points when you're coming off. Again, kind of directing you towards the new seat wall and Welcome to West Hartford wall. This area here where the existing off-ramp is will kind of be naturally allowed to revegetate. There's some plantings and things going in there. I think it's instead of just a traditional turf, it might be a wildflower mix, things like that. So it's kind of a reforestation area. And our landscape architect, really looked at it and was pretty excited about this opportunity here. So we're feeling good what that will end up looking like in the long run. Obviously, it'll take a little while for it to get there, but the thought is this would just be a natural kind of buffer between the highway and the brook. The water course would still be fenced to protect from pedestrians and things like that. The intent is that this would be, the plantings that have been selected are more geared for a lower maintenance. So they're not intended to be mowed. Maybe like twice a year they would get cut down. But yeah, I think just as, general rule of thumb, it's probably a lot of overgrowth that we've seen. I mean, this area's probably been neglected or hasn't been properly maintained for a while. So this project coming through would certainly help clean that up quite a bit. Yes, in the back. Yes, they will be approximately the same location as they are now, but again, you'll have a little bit better visibility of those. Not being able, being able to see them basically as soon as you get off the ramp, you'll be able to see those signs. So. Any other questions? Sir.
Yeah, just to go back to the,
Mm-hmm.
so what I was,
Nothing that's been incorporated into this project specifically. That would probably be something more the DOT could look at in the future potentially. You do have the curve before you kind of come off to the to that weaving section, so that does help to reduce speeds a little bit. But that would be more a question for the DOT as far as what kind of methods they could do to kind of help to slow people down before they make that curve. At this point, we don't anticipate it. If at all, it would just be on Saturday. We won't allow them to work on Sunday. But yeah, if they get into a point, especially towards the end of a construction season, let's say, and they're trying to maybe get some paving done before the winter, then yeah, we may make accommodations from the work on a Saturday, maybe reduced hours, things like that. But yeah, it's certainly a possibility. Anyone else? Well, Dwayne and I will both be around after the meeting if anybody wants to come up and ask individual questions. Happy to stick around and address those. If not, feel free to validate your parking, sign in if you haven't, and remember to visit our website. Thank you very much.